friends, let's go over some plants that can thrive in low humidity. First up, Alocasia maharani. I've had multiple of these growing at around 30% humidity, and they're fine. Rhaphidophora tetrasperma, otherwise known as mini monstera. This guy just needs bright light and a little bit of support. Begonia maculata. At around 35% humidity, this thing is still really happy. Nearly all of my syngoniums are fine with less humidity. These guys are some of the easiest plants. Philodendron Florida green. More often than not, it's the philodendrons with the velvety leaves that need higher humidity. Pretty much all marantas. Unlike calatheas, marantas actually aren't as picky. I love her. And last but not least, Monstera deliciosa. For the love of God, stop misting this plant. If your Monstera has browning leaves, it's not lack of humidity, it's because of something else. That's it, bye!
Hi, y'all know what it is. Best plant for beginners. First is our Pothos girl. She thrives in any lighted conditions. She's fertile like y'all mamas with them stair-stepper babies. Give her a well-drained moist mix and water once weekly. Second is my bromeliad girl. She's introverted like those Tauruses, honey. Ensure her water tank is always filled. Put her in bright and direct light and she'll be popping out new pups this summer. Third is the ponytail palm, who is actually a succulent. She's drought tolerant and can be soaked in water every 2 to 3 weeks. Plant her in a well-drained mix and let her hair swing. Fourth is the Alocasia elephant ear. This girl is real loud and bold like them August Leos. Give her a chunky mix, high humidity, and bright and direct sunlight and watch her grow. Lastly is a snake plant. She's real independent like them Cancers. She can grow in any lighted conditions. Water once monthly as she is not one of them needy house plants. Since I want to take care of my plant babies properly, I opened up my Plant Friend Greg's app, add my girls to his app, and let him set me a watering schedule. Then I learned about the best care tips to help my girls flourish all summer. Get 6 months free of Super Greg by clicking the link in my bio.
Would you pay $1,000 for a plant? Lots of people would. Let me show you some plants that are worth at least that much. This is a Monstera Orea. It's basically the same plant as the large plant that you see behind me, but with yellow variegation. These go for about $600 to $800 a leaf, so a plant like this is worth about $3,000. This is a mint variegated Monstera Adensoniae. It goes for about $500 a leaf and is actively growing. This is a Philodendron joviae. A plant this size recently auctioned for about $1,600. This is a Hoya Gray Ghost. We've been offered $1,000 for this whole plant, but we're saving it to take cuttings. This is an extra beautiful variegated Alocasia Frydek. A little baby like this is worth about $900, and I grew it from a corm from the mother plant that's worth a lot more. The strawberry shake used to be a $1,000 plant, but it lost a couple of its leaves. And this one's my favorite, an extra nice Monstera Albo. This one's not for sale, but it's probably worth around $2,000.
Yo, today's plant that you didn't know you needed is a silver philodendron, otherwise known as a Satin Pothos. This plant is perfect for anybody trying to quiet down that neighbor's dog, or maybe that inheritance money from your great Aunt Ruth isn't coming soon enough. The Satin Pothos can be easily grown with well-draining soil, and also boils down to an extract at 210 degrees. Having property line issues with the neighbor? A fellow coworker parked in your spot? Annoying kids? The Satin Pothos is the plant that you never knew you needed. Until now.
When you're done eating a peach, don't throw out the pit. Instead, what you want to do is crack it open. Inside of it, you'll find a seed of life. Soak the seed in a bowl of water for about 6 hours. The next thing you want to do is fill up a small container with some moist soil. Then place the seed on top and cover with more soil. Cover it with some wrap and place it in the fridge. The reason why you need to put it in the fridge is because some seeds need to go through a cold treatment in order to sprout. That's what happens in nature. Keep checking up on it and eventually you'll see that the seed has sprouted. Boom! Then grab a pot with soil and plant your peach seed, and pretty soon it'll become a seedling. When it's at least 6 inches long, plant it outside and grow a peach tree.
My top 10 7 hanging plants. The classic heartleaf philodendron, silver satin pothos, enjoy pothos, string of pearls, variegated spider plant, philodendron Brazil, curly lipstick plants, neon pothos, Tradescantia nanuk, your Pelia peperomioides, the red maranta, and of course the classic golden pothos.
Hey guys, welcome back to Planttok. When your plant looks like shit, do you know how to diagnose it? First things first, check your plants for all these nasties. Aphids cluster on the stem. Mites, you'll see webbing. Scale literally look like little scales. They're sick. Mealybugs have all this gross white powder, and if they're big enough, you can see them. And fungus gnats are everywhere. I don't even consider them a pest. Up first, underwatering. Underwatering usually is brown and crispy. You'll have shrivels, dryness, it just kind of looks like hell. And then there's overwatering. Just because you're a thirsty hoe doesn't mean your plant is. Usually overwatering is brown and soft instead of crispy and brown. If your whole plant is yellowing, chances are it's in some wet soil, so get it out. Humidity-loving plants will crisp up around the edges when they're not getting enough humidity. Apparently they're not sweaty messes like me. If your plants get speckles like this, chances are it's a fungus infection. I had athlete's foot, it wasn't pretty. Sometimes you order a plant and they come in looking like shit. Like, really? You folded the leaf? Okay. Sometimes you just have to wait for the new leaf. I hope that helped and happy planting.
Watering your plants. A heated subject that is not talked about enough. So here are the basics on what I think you should probably know. First, and the biggest misconception is it's not about how much water you give your plants, it's how often you water them. I could give this a gallon of water once a month and it'll be fine, but if I give this like a teaspoon of water every day, it's gonna die from root rot. Going back to how often you water your plants, all plants need different amounts of water, but ultimately you are the one who decides how often you water them. That seems obvious, but hear me out. I have essentially trained my plants to only need to be watered once a month. You have to do that by stages, but eventually they will get used to it. Kind of like humans, it's just about adaptation. This is genuinely really helpful because if I go out of town, I don't have to worry about someone house sitting. And the next big debate is bottom watering versus top watering. Personally, there's only very few benefits of bottom watering and top watering, so honestly, I don't think it matters what you do. And lastly is distilled/rainwater versus normal tap water. If it's randomly dying, try distilled water. Cough, cough, prayer plants. But honestly, it really doesn't matter.
Hi friends, let's go over some of the basics of water propagation and where some people are going wrong. For plants like this philodendron, I cut right below a node, and then I usually pick off whatever leaf was there and then stick it in water. Before moving them to soil or whatever you're potting it in, you don't need to wait this long. Roots like this are probably fine, but I'm lazy. Before putting them in water, I usually wait for the cutting to callus over for about a day or at least an hour, and I change the water once a week. If you want a fuller pot, the more cuttings, the better. I find it easier to put the cuttings with the most roots in first. I think the most important part of water propagation comes after you pot it up. This plant currently has water roots, so I'm going to keep the soil more moist than I normally would while it acclimates and creates more roots. Good luck!
Things I wish I knew when I first got into houseplants. Misting doesn't really do anything, it's fun though. Most plants can handle and will appreciate small periods of direct light. Don't water on a strict schedule. Pay attention to signs from your plant. You don't need high humidity to grow plants well. My average humidity is around 50.
Hey guys, welcome back to Planttok. Are you struggling with your alocasia? I got you. If you followed me for a while, you know I tend to eat these off my deck, so hopefully this helps. Learn from my mistakes. Alocasia come in a variety of different colors, sizes, and textures. Most of these bad boys like their soil to be a little bit more moist, but you can let it dry out, as long as they've got good humidity. Most alocasia can only support a certain number of leaves, so the older ones, they're gonna die. Wait until the leaves are easily plucked off. The plant's using that old leaf for energy. If you're lucky, you might even get them to flower. Go with medium or bright and direct light. And when you repot these, you can find little bulbs to plant babies.
Here are 5 houseplant care tips from a houseplant professional that you didn't know you needed. Grouping your houseplants together is actually the easiest and cheapest way to keep the humidity up in your home.
That would look something like this.
Just because a plant can tolerate low light doesn't mean it prefers it. If you don't have enough light for your plant, you can supplement with a grow light. Bottom watering your plants can reduce the risk of root rot and stop you from getting fungus gnats. Giving your trailing plant a moss pole or a trellis can actually make the leaves grow way bigger. Need I say more? Lastly, plants give us signals for what they need. Can you tell what this one wants?
It's time to pot this string of pearls, which has doubled in size. After removing it from its pot, I use a small dibbler to tease out all of the old soil. I do this to renew the soil and encourage the roots to spread out. Then I wrap the vines in a rag to protect the pearls. It also makes it easier to work with. I fill the pot almost to the brim because this plant loves airflow and does not like to sit low in a pot. Once I finish potting, I place it on top of a stool where it's easier to untangle the vines. I also try to distribute the vines equally around the pot. Thanks for watching, and make sure you like and follow for more videos. Look at that string of pearls. Absolutely beautiful.
Today's subject is variegation. I just got really lucky and found a sport variegated Raphidophora tetrasperma. Anyways, besides the point, I want to talk about variegation, what it is, and why plant people are fanatics over it. And most importantly, why variegation is not any better. In fact, it's actually worse. Scientifically, variegation is when a plant has coloring that is lighter than its other foliage. For example, this is my Hoya Crimson Queen, and you can see all the white is variegation. As you probably know, variegation does not just have to be white. It can also be yellow and green, pinky purple, and a mix of all of the above. But why are people obsessed with it? Now, I can't be hypocritical here because I also am obsessed with it. The plant community has basically made the term variegation a term that is associated with uncommon plants. The unfortunate part though is this is not great for the plant. It means that it can't photosynthesize properly because it doesn't have chlorophyll, which is what makes a plant green. And as you can see, those white parts are gonna die. So think twice before spending a fortune.
If you keep watering your plant, but it doesn't seem like the soil is absorbing anything, you probably have compacted soil. Here's how to fix it. Telltale signs of compacted soil is a super hard to break apart first layer, water just sitting on the surface, or water draining through it, but the pot doesn't get any heavier. My favorite method to fix it is stabbing with a chopstick to break up that soil. A few squeezes on a smaller pot also does the exact same thing. If none of those things work, it's time to lift that plant out and break it apart manually. And of course, if none of those things work, it's time to repot. You'll know you fixed the problem if the pot is super heavy after you water.
Yo! Having trouble latching your roots? Here's a quick tip. Get yourself a bag. You can find hooks on Amazon for cheap. Take 2 or 3 hooks and screw them in horizontally across the board. Now fill up a bag with water. Here's a tip, just use a sink. Boomer was not a big fan of that. Now that your bag is filled, you're gonna need a needle. Hang your bag right side up on the hooks. Carefully lifting the sack, poke a couple holes with your needle. Make sure that the holes you're poking sit up against the wood. This will keep everything nice and juicy. Also get a plastic thing.
More plants you should get if you're brand new to plants. Slightly less basic edition. Number 1, a neon heartleaf philodendron. This is my pride and joy. It grows really long vines and the new growth is tinged pink. Number 2, a marble queen pothos. This is so much prettier than a golden pothos and it grows really fast, so even if you lose a few leaves, it doesn't really matter. Number 3, a raven zizi. The new growth comes out green like the normal one, but then it darkens to this really pretty black. These are all super easy to take care of. Follow for more plant stuff. Bye!
Certain plants will grow bigger, more mature leaves faster if you give them something to climb. Here's one example of my Philodendron splendid. Here's the original leaf when my friend gave me a cutting, produced a more mature leaf, and now bam, look how big that leaf is.
Hey plant people, it's the Houseplant Pixie here, and today I'm talking to you new plant parents. That's right, today we are doing Plant Parenting 101. And our first parenting tip of the day is cut off your dead leaves. Pruning dead leaves is super important since they take up a lot of energy from the plant and stop it from putting out new growth. Next, get your plants off the windowsill, especially in the winter. Don't have to be on a tree branch like mine, but get them off the sill. Next, definitely invest in a humidifier, you'll thank me later. And maybe most importantly, try bottom watering your plant. It's a great way to avoid overwatering. Lastly, we'll throw in a winter care tip, get a grow light, you'll thank me later.
Here's how you could be taking better care of your plants this summer from a houseplant professional. Step 1 is to make sure to increase humidity because your plants are gonna want it. With all that dry AC air, they're gonna need it extra. Next, you're gonna wanna make sure you're watering your plant on time. Whenever I notice that my plants are getting a little extra thirsty, I log them into the Greg app. I personally am a serial underwaterer, though having a planty personal assistant like Greg is just what I need. One of my favorite things about this app is that it can identify the plant just by the picture that you upload. Also lets you add all the specs that might affect your plant, like the pot it's in, or how close to the sun it is, and even if it's near an air conditioner. The more you use Greg, the more it learns about your plants. And now that I've logged this plant, Greg will tell me the next time it needs a drink. Since I have almost 100 houseplants, Greg has actually been such a helpful app, and I'm so grateful that they decided to sponsor this video. Oh, and they have a feature where you can add your friends, so go ahead and find me and add me, and let's be friends on Greg.
Hi, y'all know what it is, how to find and treat root rot. My Raphidophora tetrasperma leaves started to curl and yellow, so I checked the roots and noticed that they were as rotten as racist white people's hatred towards others who don't look like them. The soil she was potted in from the nursery was too soggy and didn't dry out within 2 weeks. Her roots were scraggly brown, falling off by the touch, and stringy like racist white people's hair. Took some sterilized shears and chopped all parts of the rotted roots, leaving only strong and light colored ones. Created a mixture of 2 parts water to 1 part of hydrogen peroxide. Soaked the roots for 10 to 15 minutes to clean and cure any infections. Placed her in a new pot with well-drained and pea-free organic potting mix with lots of aeration, consisting of cocoa coir, perlite, horticultural charcoal. Add orchid bark for a chunkier mix. All products can be found in my Amazon shop. Now my girl is fighting to get her groove back this spring while fighting for justice for Dante Wright and other black and brown folks killed by police brutality. Like and follow for more.
Work with houseplants for a living. There's 5 trailing plants that are going to look stunning in your house. The heartleaf philodendron, the arrowhead plant, the neon pothos, the golden pothos, and the prayer plant.
Just in case you're wondering why I did opt to go with carpet material versus sphagnum moss.
That's my tropical plant adventure, talking about how you can use alternative materials to make moss poles. I went shopping all over town looking for sphagnum moss because I was going to make moss poles, like this one, but I couldn't find any, which scares me because it's literally a natural resource. You can't just manufacture more moss. Time to get creative. Here are some old towels I got at Goodwill, and sheeted cocoa fiber. I'm gonna start by measuring the PVC so I know how big of a piece of the cocoa fiber to cut. Then I'll measure out 1-inch segments and cut to about 1 inch away from the top. They'll help keep things together. And then I'm gonna measure those same 1-inch segments along the towel. I'm just using the points as guides to measure out even strips. Once you've made a ton of little strips, you're gonna set them aside, and it's time to do a simple basket weave. Or like lattice on the top of a cherry pie. It's important to keep things really tight. And when you're done, flip it over so that you can keep the design you made on the outside. To connect the quilt to the PVC, you're just gonna fold that top inch into the center of the pipe. I finished the seam by tying the towels together, and now I'm tucking them in with the end of a paintbrush. Create a really finished look. My non-moss moss pole. Yeah, we need a bigger pot.
Buy Top Easy Care Pet Safe Plants Part 2. The gorgeous variegated aluminum plant, also known as a watermelon pilea. Hoya carnosa compacta. Peacock peperomia. The goldfish plant, which produces bright orange flowers. And the super pretty Stromathe triostar. Follow